Welcome back to this week's episode of the Dance Studio Scaled podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about something that I think almost every experienced studio owner has felt at some point in their career. And it's one of those topics that we don't often talk about publicly because we don't want to come across as complaining. Now, I think I can speak for most of us when I say we generally love all of our families. We genuinely appreciate them. We know that the vast majority of our parents are wonderful, supportive people who trust us with their children every single week. This episode isn't about those parents. This one is about the handful of interactions that can completely change your day. So let me start by asking you a question. Have you ever got to the end of a really long day and thought, I genuinely don't know what more I could have done? You've spent hours planning classes, you're worrying about every single child, you're supporting your teachers, you're answering emails, you're organizing concerts and payrolls and juggling budgets. You solve problems that nobody else even know exists. You make hundreds, if not thousands, of decisions every single term with one goal in mind. And that's to create the very best experience you possibly can for your students, your family, and your team. And then that one email arrives in your inbox, that one complaint, that one opinion, the one parent questions your motives, your professionalism, your decision making. And somehow, despite the hundreds of families who are happy, that's the email that you replay in your head all night. That's the one that follows you home. That's the one that makes you question yourself. Now, if you've ever felt like that, first of all, I want you to know that you're not alone, because I know how much this can chip away at your confidence. I know how emotionally exhausting it can become. Not because one complaint is that significant, but because when you are constantly making decisions with the best intentions, it can slowly feel like no matter what you do, it's never quite enough. And that's hard, like really hard. So today, I don't actually want to talk about difficult parents. I want to talk about something I deem to be much more important, and that's how we can continue to lead when not everybody agrees with us. Now, before we go any further though, I think it's really important to acknowledge something. Like, first of all, most parents are wonderful. They trust us, they support us, they recommend us, they are the first to cheer us on. They're appreciating the work that goes into running a studio. So this episode isn't about the majority, it's just about the handful of interactions that have the power to occupy far more space in our mind than it deserves. Because if we're honest, that is the part that slowly wears us down. And so I want to start with, before we get too frustrated with the parents, I just want to ask you, hold up a mirror to yourself just for a moment. Because every single one of us is also a customer somewhere. And have you ever questioned, say, for example, like a mechanic about a repair? Have you ever asked your accountant to explain a fee or send an email to your child's school because you disagree with something? Have you ever asked for a refund, or have you left a review after a poor experience, or asked why something had been done a certain way? Because most of us have, and having an opinion doesn't actually make someone difficult. Having a question doesn't make someone disrespectful. The same as having feedback doesn't automatically make them unreasonable. So perhaps the question isn't, why do parents have opinions? Maybe the better question is, how do we respond when they do? Because whilst we can't control whether someone questions us, we can absolutely control how much authority we hand over in the moment. And I think that's where this conversation gets really interesting. Because somewhere along the way, something has changed over the last 10 or 15 years. Parents haven't necessarily become worse. The relationship between businesses and customers has changed. So if you think about it, right, it's the Amazon effect. We live in a world where we can track a parcel in real time. We can chat to a customer support instantly. We leave public reviews. We can compare businesses within seconds. Everything has become a lot more personalized, more accessible, and definitely more immediate. And social media has changed the relationship between dance studios and parents. Because parents now have access. They can see things. They can see rehearsals being run. They can see backstage. They can look at your competition and they can compare and they can come up with ideas and beliefs and costumes and the way people are running videos and behind the scene moments. Parents are feeling more connected than ever. And when people feel more connected, they naturally feel more invested. And when people feel more invested, that's when they often have more of an opinion. And it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just simply the world that's we're operating in right now. So the challenge is that somewhere along the way, many studio owners have started confusing listening with leading. So customer service is so important and listening is ridiculously important. You probably listened. I've got specific episodes on how important I believe listening is. And feedback is valuable and can be really valuable. But leadership doesn't mean asking permission for every decision. You can listen without changing everything. You can care without agreeing. You can be approachable without giving away your authority. That distinction changed everything for me. So here's something that I often reflect on. Parents don't magically become demanding overnight. Sometimes, without even realizing it, we will subtly teach people how to interact with our business. So think about it. Do you ever catch yourself apologizing for decisions that you actually stand behind? Do you over-explain policies? Do you negotiate requests? Do you answer emails at 10:30 at night or phone calls or return calls out of office hours? Do you make exceptions so often that they quietly become expectations? Because every interaction teaches people what is normal. And I know it's uncomfortable to hear, but I've done it too. So I'm with you. I totally get it. I wanted to keep the people happy. I wanted to avoid conflict. I hate conflict. I hate it. So I would do anything to avoid it. And I want people to like me. I wanted it back then. I still want it now. But every time we move a boundary because we're uncomfortable, we're teaching people that boundaries move. One of the biggest leadership lessons I've ever learned is every exception you make becomes tomorrow's expectation. So just let that sit with you. Every exception that you make becomes tomorrow's expectation. Now, one thing that has helped me enormously over the years is recognizing that not all parent feedback deserves the same response. I actually think there's 3 different types. So the first is what I would call helpful feedback. And this is, sometimes parents genuinely see something we've missed, or perhaps communication wasn't clear. Perhaps a child is struggling and we didn't know. This is, maybe it's even a process that could be improved. I have an example of this. I can remember it was many years ago, and her timing wasn't great because it was just after a dance concert. However, I had a parent come the following day and she said, I love the concert, it was so good, but I have some feedback. And immediately I'm like, I don't want to hear your feedback. However, I did. I smiled and listened. And she's just suggested a way for parents to collect their little ones in a way that I hadn't actually thought of before. And the idea was actually really great. And it was something that I implemented and continue to do up until the day I sold. And so although her timing wasn't great because, it was the day after the concert, the information was it was quite valuable. And I listened and I thanked them. And that's one of my favorite reminders is that wisdom listens before it decides. Not all feedback is criticism. Sometimes it is just information. So that's the first type of feedback. The second type, now this is the tricky one. This is the personal preference. This is the one that I feel dominates a lot now. And it's probably the most frustrating for studio owners. And this is the personal preference. This is I'd rather if jazz was held on the Tuesday, not the Thursday, or I don't like that costume. I think that costume would look better with this, or I wish my child was in a different class. I would have chosen different music to that. I don't think that music's appropriate. Now, that type of feedback, they're not necessarily problems. They're just preferences. And preferences don't automatically require change. Have you ever heard the saying, your opinion is none of my business? Like, I love that line so much. Your opinion, your preference is none of my business. You can have it, but you don't have to tell me about it. So you can acknowledge this type of feedback respectfully without redesigning your whole business around one person's opinion. Because listening doesn't require you to agree with them. You can listen, understand, and empathize, but still make the same decision. And just do it with a big smile on your face. Okay, so that's the second one. The third one is the boundary testing one. So you know these conversations. These are the ones I know what the policy says, but, or could you just make an exception? Or could you just waive the fee this one time? Or can my child move classes even though enrollments have closed? Now, this isn't always about the request itself. This is more about seeing whether the boundary moves and the power that the parent has over you as the studio owner. Now, are there genuine circumstances where compassion matters? Absolutely. Life happens, family experience illness, financial hardship, unexpected situations. Compassion should always have a place in our business, but compassion and inconsistency aren't the same thing. When you do make an exception, let it be because it aligns with your values, not because you felt pressured in the moment. Kindness doesn't require abandoning your standards. Now, one thing that I've noticed over many years in this is parents can sense uncertainty. So when we're constantly defending ourselves, explaining every tiny decision that we're making, or seeking approval, or getting their different opinions, or what do you think would work, or what would work for you, trying to convince everyone, parents often become less confident then in you as the leader. They're not more confident by, giving them the options. The most trusted leaders aren't the ones who explain every decision. They're just the ones who make thoughtful decisions consistently. Now, confidence isn't arrogance, it's clarity. Now, with everything that I've spoken about so far, this might be the part of the episode that I want you to remember the most. One unhappy email doesn't invalidate the hundreds of happy families. One complaint doesn't erase the years of good leadership. One parent's opinion doesn't become the truth simply because it was expressed loudly. Don't let the loudest voice become the most important voice. Instead, ask yourself, is this feedback revealing a genuine pattern, or is it reflecting someone's personal preference? And there's a huge difference. And great leaders will know the difference and stand confidently with that. Okay, before I wrap up, I just want to leave you with a few little reminders. And not because I think you'll remember every point that I've made today, but because I think you'll need them on days when leadership starts to feel hard. And so even if you jot these down onto a sticky note, or write them down, or put them on a notes app so that you can pull them up when things are feeling a little bit hard for you. Just a few little things to remember, a few little mantras. So the first one is, an opinion is not an instruction. Someone can have an opinion. It doesn't mean you have to do anything with it. Listening doesn't require agreeing. So you can still listen, you can still empathize, you can thank them so much, but you don't have to agree. You don't need to justify every decision to stand confidently behind it. You know what you are doing. You know your intentions are the absolute best for your family, your students, your teachers, hopefully yourself as well. You don't need to justify why you've done it. One complaint doesn't cancel out 100 happy families. You can be kind without changing your standards. Parents don't need to approve every decision. They just need to trust the person making them. And finally, the last one is lead the whole studio, not the loudest parent, because they're always the loudest. I get it. At the end of the day, your responsibility isn't to make every single family happy every single time. It's simply impossible. Your responsibility is to make thoughtful, consistent decisions that serve the entire community that you've built. Your students, your teachers, your families, the future of your studio. Some people won't agree, and that is absolutely okay. Leadership has never been about unanimous approval. It's about making the best decisions you can with the information that you have, staying true to your values, and leading with kindness and consistency. So the next time that email arrives, pause before you respond, take a breath, and simply ask yourself, am I responding because this genuinely needs my attention, or because I'm uncomfortable knowing someone disagrees with me? Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do isn't changing your mind. It's actually standing confidently behind the thoughtful decision that you've already made. I hope you have taken something away from this. If anything, just know you're not alone. Just know that we're all struggling with this at the moment, but it's something that we can do, and we can do together. It comes back to you, comes back to your intentions. It comes back to the incredible work that you are doing day in and day out. And even though people can't see everything that you're doing, I know what you're doing. I know what it takes behind the scenes. I know how many decisions you're having to make each day. So if anything, you know where we are. That's what I love so much about this community, being able to share and support each other. So thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.